Well, welcome to Radio Free Professional Wrestling. Yes, it is Shawn with my tag team partner, Ashlee. And I got to say, we have had an eventful week in professional wrestling. Ashlee, we have New Japan Strong Tag Team Champions and the grizzled young veterans. Grit your teeth. Now, I know personally it's kind of breaking your heart because your boys lost the titles to my guys, and I'm pretty sure David Bright would have claimed them as his guys too.
Honestly, I'm interested to see where this goes. Grizzly Young veterans signed with AEW a couple months ago, and it doesn't seem like they've found footing there yet. So maybe kind of working with New Japan can help them. In the past, it's helped, AEW competitors come back and be a little bit better in the flow of things.
True. I get a feeling that they are working on a per day basis with a lot of different companies. And I feel like they're just basically playing the field, and wherever gives them the best offer, eventually they'll go that way once they decide they want to have a longer stay in a company.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I like the champions in Strong right now.
I gotta say, if you did not watch Fighting Spirit from this past Friday night, you need to go check it out either on New Japan World or you can get it on Fight TV. And I gotta say, that was one of my favorite cards. It may be my pay-per-view of the year. We'll have to wait and see once we get to the Winston Awards. So let's go over to the Control Center to catch you guys up on the weekend wrestling news.
This is your Radio Free Pro Wrestling Control Center. All the wrestling news you need to know.
And Ashlee, my first news story for you is coming up this weekend. New Japan Pro Wrestling is having a crossover show with Stardom and its Historic X Over 2. And one of the matches signed for this is the Great Okan versus Susie Sakura for the KOPW title. It is probably the first intergender match in New Japan Pro Wrestling, if I remember right.
This is going to be insane. There's always been this kind of New Japan being only male. There's so much space for like what they can do with this pay-per-view.
Well, they own Stardom, and I feel like for the longest time there's like a sister promotion that they never wanted to mention that, oh, by the way, we own this promotion. Now they are working their way into combining it into New Japan Wrestling just a little bit more. The main event is a mixed tag team match with Zack Sabre Jr. and the Starlight Kid teaming up versus a couple of other competitors. I gotta say, I might be showing up another $35 to see this pay-per-view.
Yeah, I like the integration of the two. It makes sense. It's a good way to get people into it if you don't have the viewership or the numbers you want for it. They've even integrated them into things like there's a mobile game I play with the trading cards from New Japan, and they've even now released Stardom cards.
That's cool, I gotta say. So we're moving on to my second news story this week. As Davey Boy Smith Jr. announced that his All Japan Pro Wrestling contract is expiring in January. I got a feeling that he's going to resign because they literally just made him the champion of the promotion. And I got to say, Davey Boy Smith in Japanese wrestling, you got to watch this guy. The guy is so freaking talented. I feel like he was so wasted in WWE.
Yeah, and they either got to be close to something or this is a very big bid to get him to stay.
Well, that's a fair point, Ashlee. You could see them putting that title on there, trying to convince him to resign if they're thinking that maybe he slides back to New Japan Pro Wrestling, or you never know. I mean, like, the world is like getting smaller, and could he go back to the WWE and slide into NXT somewhere? Maybe, who knows?
Genuinely, that's a fair point. He could end up anywhere. Truthfully, the way New Japan has been on a roll, if I was him, I might be looking to go back to New Japan.
Speaking of Japanese talent going around globally, a Noah star, Yoshi Norimura, comes to WWE Performance Center. Shawn Michaels on Twitter posted the gentleman arriving to the Performance Center, and I feel like Noah and NXT and WWE are working like a exchange program, just like they do with TNA, and I feel like this is going to be the first of many Noah stars that might pop up in NXT.
Yeah, we've kind of seen a little bit of a partnership between them, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
And I gotta say, they have stacked the women's division up pretty nicely with some talent from around the world, and I feel like now they're looking to do the same with the men's division.
It's kind of crazy. It's like Noah and Marigold are WWE's Japan connection, and Stardom and New Japan are AEW's.
Like we said, the world is very, very small when it comes to professional wrestling, and it really does feel like East American companies trying to find their Japanese partners so they can have a farm system and pull in talent as they need it.
I mean, look at the talents coming out of there. You'd have to be crazy to not want to be in on it.
Very true. My next news story, Carl Anderson went on his podcast to announce that he will be missing probably 6 to 9 months with his latest injury. A few months back, he apparently tore his rotator cuff and tore a ligament in his shoulder. So we just want to let the Machine Gun a speedy recovery because, man, I was looking forward to seeing what they would do in that tag team division, especially with the Machine Guns there now.
Yeah. Oh, man, another big injury. Like, this is crazy. Like, at this end of the year, we're hitting a lot of really awful injuries.
I gotta say, I just like, we want to wish them the best, but
yeah, absolutely.
I feel like with the Good Brothers, ever since they signed that second deal to stay in the WWE, they have been hitting bad luck with like injuries and stuff and not being in the right place at the right time to get pushed and stuff. And I feel like we have lost some good matches that we could have had with the Good Brothers while they were in WWE, or they could have maybe not signed with WWE, went up to AEW and had some banger matches too.
Yeah, hopefully, like you said, he heals up quick and maybe they can have something set up and waiting for him when he gets back.
True. So my last news story this week, Lance Anoy, the other member of the Bloodline family, has apparently...
The other member.
has... Sports Illustrated has reported that he signed back in August with the WWE, and apparently he's going to be featured on NXT. I get a feeling that they're going to briefly have an NXT until like maybe Survivor Series and War Games, because the new Bloodline only has 4 members and they need a 5th for the War Games match. And oh hi, we just found another family member.
Suspicious timing.
And if you have seen this guy, I feel like, just like Jacob Fatu, this guy is freaking amazing and like a freaking nature, and having them together in a group is going to be freaking amazing.
Should be interesting. It seems like they found more footing with the Bloodline storyline. I was seeing a lot of Bloodline fatigue, but it seems like this kind of turn with like getting Sami Zayn back in is sort of brought a lot of people back into it.
Well, we can talk about that here for a second. I mean, like, I was thinking maybe they were thinking about making Sami heel and be the 5th member to the new Bloodline. And I thought that's the way they were going until I saw on SmackDown on Friday night that Sami just Hulu kicked Solo into next week, and they all raised the finger. So the original Bloodline are back together for the moment. So acknowledge. And that has been your control center for November the 9th, 2024, here on Radio Free Professional Wrestling. We are going to the 76 questions.
Time to ring the bell. As Shawn and Ashlee debate 6 stunning questions from the week of wrestling. All the whys. And what the hell was that?
So, Ashlee, my first stunning question for you this week. I gotta say, Wrestle Kingdom is looking freaking amazing, and Wrestle Dynasty on January the 5th is also getting stacked. As we learned this week, the IWGP champion, Zack Sabre Jr., will face Ricochet at Wrestle Dynasty. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for this match?
I'm like pretty much I would say like an 8 or a 9 at least. Ricochet appeared out of nowhere in New Japan, and what was crazy was like the crowd reaction he got. Like, it's great to see him get these reactions still all over.
Yeah, I gotta say, he appeared right after the Zack Sabre Jr. match, and Zack Sabre Jr. was thinking that he was going to just have a video message, but nope. We saw Ricochet come from the behind of Zack Sabre Jr. and introduce himself to the current New Japan Pro Wrestling champion, and I gotta think this is gonna be a freaking banger of a match.
I really like how the whole thing was done. So when Zack Sabre Jr. wins this match, Shota Umino comes out and like respectfully asks essentially for a title match. And Zack Sabre Jr. says, all right, yeah, fine. Let's do it. Shota Umino leaves. Ricochet attacks Zack Sabre Jr. And then he's like, I'm here to challenge you. And Zack Sabre Jr. is pissed and is like, yeah, all right, let's do it right now. Like, whenever. Like, we'll do it at the next show, blah, blah, blah. Now Shota Umino and Ricochet kind of get into it and stuff. I want to see that match too.
So I got a good feeling that we know the opponents for Zack Sabre Jr. on the 4th and 5th of January. And dude, these are going to be 2 banger matches. And it's like a lot of people want to take the 4th and the 5th off. And unfortunately, I probably only got the 4th off.
Shota Umino is finding, I think, a path that people are getting behind. His, especially the past few shows, this last one, especially him flipping off Jon Moxley and calling out Moxley essentially for Moxley's path the way he's been going. Give me this fiery Shota. I want to see it.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing we saw at Paris Struggle, and the fact that Moxley went, dude, no, you're the junior member. I want to send somebody to take care of you. You're the light work. You got to beat my guy before you get to my level. So who do you think this emissary is going to be?
I'm not sure.
My first thought was, oh, hey, can it be Wheeler Yuta? And we just see Charlotte just beat the freaking heck out of Wheeler Yuta.
I feel like that's gotta be it because Shota Umino like specifically dropped Wheeler Yuta's name, but he talked about, honestly, I'd love to see Pac versus Shota.
That would be fun. And, oh, hey, can we just do Claudio? Claudio at Wrestle Kingdom. Oh my freaking word!
Yeah, just there.
Okay, so as we were dream planning 2025 matches here, let's just go ahead to my second Sunday question. As last week on SEC Nation, which is the pregame show for the Southeastern Conference Football League that happens to be where I'm basically based in the Southeast of the United States, Goldberg was on there because Georgia was playing somebody and they were at Athens. And he kind of gave away the fact that the WWE has agreed to give him a retirement match in 2025. And it looks like it might be Gunther. So, Ashlee, are you excited for Goldberg 2025 retirement?
Personally, it's not my bag. But I understand. I understand why they're doing it. I appreciate that if they are doing it, that they are building it up, especially this far in advance with Gunther. And Gunther is honestly probably the most perfect member of your roster that you could put him in a match with.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like Gunther needs to dominate Goldberg. We don't get to see that much of offense from Goldberg. And you know what? Let Goldberg go out on his shield. Let Gunther put him to sleep. and the referee lifts his arm up 3 times, rings the bell, and retirement.
Yeah, I don't feel like it has to be like, too over the top or anything. But like I said, I see where they're going with it. I'm curious to see where they'll do it.
See, that's the interesting question. Where do you want to put this match? Do you want to put it on night 1 of WrestleMania and that be your WWE World Title match? Honestly, I was excited for this match before Gunther was World Champion because I remember at Bad Blood when we saw his interaction with Goldberg, I was going like, heck yeah, let's go see this match. And after a while, I got out of that moment. My adrenaline came back down and common sense kicked in. And I'm going like, wait a minute. I don't think Goldberg can wrestle a match on Gunther's level. I don't think Goldberg can lift Gunther up into the jackhammer position.
And if he can't, he should not try. We saw that on one of his last matches. Like I said, I think if you had to choose one person on that roster, like Gunther is probably the first person that would come to my mind to be able to kind of carry this match. We haven't seen Goldberg in a minute, so I have no idea what he, looks like in the ring.
True, it's been a hot minute since his last match in the WWE, so we don't know exactly how he is.
Right, I have no idea if he's been working out in the ring or something, so...
Well, we got some time. We're still here in late 2024, so a lot of things going to happen from here and now, so maybe this match won't even happen.
That's also a possibility. I would hope not, though. I feel like they've done enough for it, and to give... Like I said, like Goldberg's like personally not my favorite, but obviously he's a huge name, and him getting to have like a last match that will be memorable for people in a good way would like he deserves that.
Yeah. I mean, like I was a big Goldberg fan when he was in WCW, and I gotta say his return the first time to WWE was great, and they were able to make the matches work with what he could do. And I feel like if any place can do this, it's the WWE.
Yeah, like I said, let Gunther lead, and you've got time, so get Goldberg in the ring, get him some reps or something, and you should be good to go by WrestleMania.
True. I mean, that would give him enough time to plan out the match and stuff. So yeah, maybe you could do it night 1 of WrestleMania. I gotta say, if that happens, I will apologize to everybody on the show after our WrestleMania review show. But I'm sorry I made this match happen in reality. On to my next stunning question. A lot of people are talking about, is there too many former WWE talent in All Elite Wrestling? So, Ashlee, we see the Hurt Syndicate reform in All Elite Wrestling. We have Jon Moxley running the roughshod over AEW. Does it feel like it's WWE Lite, or have we not crossed that line yet?
I don't know. This is a question that, for me, I don't know how I feel about. I don't like that insinuation that, these people were let go. I don't know what they're supposed to do. They got to work somewhere. And to me, like, especially like a name like Jon Moxley, like, to me, he's an AEW original. He's been there since day one. It's almost like, yeah, he was in WWE, but he is AEW right now. Like, Jon Moxley is almost the first dude I think of when I think of AEW. The first 4-time champion. He's always been at the top of the card there. I mean, I think we could have a discussion. Do they have too many talent in general? And I do think that's a conversation that we could look into, because I think it's a possibility they do.
Okay, so honestly, to me, it's hard to not have this many members that used to work somewhere else. Because I mean, like, have we forgotten for a good part of the late 20th century and the first part of the 21st century, there was no competitor to the WWE. If you wanted to wrestle in North America, you had to wrestle in the WWE to be on TV. So that being said, of course, you're going to have a large group of people who have ties to the WWE. Now, the difference between TNA back in the day, who would grab almost anybody from WWE, and AEW, I feel like AEW does actually try to push some of their homegrown talents, and they use their people they bring in for the WWE the right way. Where in TNA back in the day, TNA would bring in whoever you think, and they would instantly be in the world title feud with whoever the TNA champion was. And 9 times out of 10, they would win the match.
Yeah, that's why, like, I see a lot on social media, like, when somebody debuts, they're like, oh, they have to win the title right now on their debut. No, they don't. You're going to screw up months of setup just to get that, like, quick pop. Like, you can have a great debut match and take a loss.
Very true. And I gotta say, I want to see the Hurt Business in AEW because I felt like they were underutilized in the other company. So when they got let go, it made sense. It makes business sense to go to AEW, and Tony Khan and AEW looked at MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and Bobby Lashley and go like, dude, that was one of the hottest acts at one point in WWE history. They're all free agents. Yeah, I should get them all coming and reform this group and see what we can do and give them a prime spot in the company.
Especially with like MVP, with a little more free range and stuff like that. I'm very interested to see what they could do. And I do like that, like you said, like look at people like Sting, look at people like Christian Cage, look at how they've elevated like Darby Allin, even like, again, I've said it's divisive, but Jack Perry, I think he's doing very well. And we're seeing it with Nick Wayne. I think the people that he chooses to bring in from WWE are truly some of the best minds in wrestling. And sometimes I think that's more why they're brought in than maybe what they can offer in the ring.
That's also a fair point, Ashley. I feel like 95% of who he brought into AEW from the former WWE, they all kind of hit. And I gotta say, a lot of people think Mercedes Moné has been a bomb since she's got into AEW. I disagree. I feel like it's taken her a little bit of time since she was injured to get her group going. But if you watched Collision last night, I feel like she's in her groove now with the CEO character.
Yeah, and I also think that people sort of take for granted, I think, the different structures we see between the WWE and AEW, in that, especially things like promos, where we've heard it before in WWE, there are scripts, you're kind of going over things with people, obviously, so because they have their bubble, they want to control the story and what's going on, and that makes sense. And in AEW, you're given a little more free range to go out there and maybe say something and stuff like that. So I think when you're trying to learn something so rigid to go to a little more of a flowy state, it is a transition that you do have to get used to. You have to get rid of that like rigidity in your mind.
Very true. So we're going to put a pin in this question for a minute because we're going on to my next stunning question. If it's not, to me, WWE talent, is it the presentation of AEW wrestling? Because there is reports that coming in 2025, AEW is going to go to a more sports-based presentation. Now, my question to you, Ashley, is that like New Japan Pro Wrestling sports-based competition? Because I think that would be different. That would be different enough to separate yourself from the WWE. Because right now, one thing you can say is sometimes if you follow the pattern of WWE, you can't be WWE Lite.
That's fair. And I will say I've seen some talk of a lot of the storylines in AEW sort of being like that over the past like maybe year or so, like maybe a little WWE-ish. So I mean, I don't that's what we were promised at the beginning, a more sports-based presentation. So it's weird to have gone this far and feel like now we have to go back to it. So I don't know if maybe that's what they are trying to refer to. They want to go back to like the earlier days of AEW when you can't bring rankings back. We can't do this again.
Ashlee, if they bring rankings back, I'm going to quit the show, okay? They bring rankings back. This is done. We'll have a farewell regular-free professional wrestling.
I mean, to me, I'm genuinely confused by what that means. Like I said, I hope it's not introducing back in things like this. I'm hoping it means we see a little bit more of the presentation style we saw in the beginning of AEW, but I'm not sure exactly what they're going to be changing with this.
I'm hoping they go to a more like a NBA kind of presentation, like make it a sports feel like on TV, like how the TNT had their Inside NBA and how they presented the games on their networks. That would make sense to me, where you have like maybe cameras in a different position. You follow the wrestler down the ring, like from the back of the locker room or whatever, and that kind of stuff, like things like that. Maybe that's what they mean by a sports presentation, but honestly, they need to make their decision. They need to decide which lane they want to be in. Do they want to be sports-based professional wrestling, or do they want to be sort of like WWE and be more sports entertainment, but still have a little bit difference where they're not exactly copying WWE? You got to pick one lane and stay in it.
It's a fine line.
It's the hardest question in professional wrestling when it comes to like promotions, is you need to figure this out, because once you try to bounce back from a force, you alienate a certain part of your audience. And once you alienate that certain audience, they either disappear or they go to the other company.
Yeah. And I feel like AEW has sort of been in that purgatory for like maybe the past year or so, where, like I said, a lot of people have said, oh, a lot of this stuff seems WWE-ish, and that's pushed away some of the diehard fans. It's maybe brought you some casual fans, but you've already lost what you had. And now you're kind of stuck in between. Do you go back to what you were and lose what you had to try to bring other people back to the product?
I feel like they had a hot start, and unfortunately for them, their hot start ran smack into the pandemic, and we all saw pandemic era wrestling, and I watched it just to have something to watch, and I was supporting the professional wrestlers doing their thing during the pandemic. But coming out of the pandemic, and like you said, for like the last year or so, it seems like AEW has got out of the honeymoon phase, and a lot of the casual fans look at AEW going like, you're not exactly the alternative that you said you're going to be.
I'd say even going into 2021, like 2021 was probably their best year. But like I said, like it feels like they're like teeter-tottering and they haven't found their balance yet. And Tony Khan's got I know he's got a million things he's doing, but he's got to kind of pick a lane for AEW here.
Honestly, I feel like we're at the point where Tony Khan needs to get a head booker and it not be Tony Khan. He needs somebody.
If he ran like AEW, and like we talked about it, hand off Ring of Honor booking. You can have the final say of the show, the final approval of everything, but you have so many talented Ring of Honor veterans under your umbrella. Use them and let them book that show.
Exactly. I feel like that's one thing he could do. Another thing he could do is like, oh, hey, as Bryan Danielson is having some time away with his surgery and stuff, let him be the booker of AEW, or have him with some other people to book AEW. And then you just look off and sign off on the final product. Like, okay, this looks good. This looks good. Can we change this? That to me is what he needs to go for in 2025. We're in the second contract now.
I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. We're in the second contract now with AEW and Discovery Time Warner. He needs to get this ship righted now, because next time he may not be lucky enough to have a partner in Discovery Time Warner willing to keep him on TV.
Yeah, and it's not even just that. Like, we've seen a lot of struggles with that company itself anyway. But he's got a lot of work to do, and he's always going like 100 miles a second. Like, it's crazy. He's got football, he's got soccer, AEW, and Ring of Honor ebooks. So, like I said, at least hand off Ring of Honor, be the final say-so. But again, you have too many people that can help you.
So true. There's so many people that he has signed in AEW that could help him do a lot of things backstage and make this a viable company for years to come. I'm not talking about the next contract. I'm talking about the contract down the road. We're talking about the 2030s.
Plus, you really have to look at shoring it up right now with this new WWE program, because you're going to lose out on these young talents. Like Jack Cartwheel is somebody they lost out on now because he wasn't signed to any sort of contract. He was only making appearances on Ring of Honor. You have to shore this up. You have to have a set roster, and you have to get some help with the booking.
Exactly, especially since the WWE has announced their ID program, where now they're looking at independent wrestlers and offering them a deal where they can still do any bookings, and this deal allows WWE have the first right of refusal. Say, like, I came to you, Ashlee, and you're underneath this ID contract, and you get a deal from AEW. I can go like, cool, here's a deal to send you to NXT for a little bit more money, and they get first choice. And I'm like going like, that is going to help WWE feed into their system, because they got two programs. They got their program for the non-wrestlers, where they find the college athletes they want to train at the Performance Center. And now you bring in some of the talent from the independent wrestling for the ID program. It's the perfect marriage of the two systems.
Yeah, that's why I said AEW and Tony Khan himself specifically are going to have to work very hard to shore up what's going on with Ring of Honor.
Well, we'll be talking about Ring of Honor on Tuesday with our Bessie from the Pod Break, Kimmy Suckle, as we present the first edition of the Pod Break Extra, powered by Radio Free Professional Wrestling. Check it out Tuesday on our YouTube channel, and it will be in our podcast feed. On to our next stunning question. Back on Power Struggle, we had a surprise visit by Kenny Omega. Ashlee, who do you want to see Kenny Omega wrestle at Wrestle Kingdom?
Oh, man. This is crazy that he's coming back to New Japan, first of all.
I have a small list of people that he could probably wrestle, and unfortunately for me, I feel like Gabe Kidd is going to be like, hey, forget that list. I'm going to be the first person.
I genuinely feel like that's got to be the choice, especially after the backstage assault. If it's not him, it would feel like it'd have to be a War Dogs member, but who would you go with after that?
And a lot of them are already tied up in programs going into Wrestle Kingdom. So I've got a feeling that David Finlay is going to end up wrestling probably Jay White, and he's not going to be the person that faces Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom this year. Even though I did want to see David Finlay versus Kenny Omega.
Honestly, after the Hiroki Goto matches, yeah.
Gotta say. But
I love that match.
I'm excited to see the best bout machine, the cleaner Kenny Omega, back in the Tokyo Dome coming January the 4th.
Yeah, first of all, that's just the most exciting news after so long without this guy.
Because honestly, Ashlee, there's a point where we both thought that he may not be able to get back into the ring due to his diverticulitis, and I just butchered that, I know, but he had a very serious health issue that he had to overcome, and we're just lucky enough that he's able to continue his professional wrestling career.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see him come back because he looks great.
Well, we'll
Definitely doesn't look like somebody who was recovering for that long.
No, and talk about somebody you could use for your like PR, because he literally did the promo in Japanese, then broke it into English for the English listeners at Power Struggle, and the crowd just ate it up. They were happy to see Kenny. They loved the fact that he spoke in Japanese first and explained what he wanted to do. And basically what he said was, I want to come back to New Japan Pro Wrestling because this is the best professional wrestling company on the planet. Kenny, you're also a EVP of the other one, All Elite Wrestling, maybe. I know you guys are partners. I know that maybe that's why you said it.
I feel like it was an interesting, deliberate choice of words.
We'll just have to wait around to see if that's anything we need to pay attention to. On to my next stunning question for you. Back on Friday Night SmackDown, I have a personal feeling that they dropped the ball by having Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax not pin either Jade Cargill or Bianca Belair. Now, granted, I feel like Belair would be the one they want to pin. They want to save that pin on Jade for the single feud. But wouldn't it be kind of cool to have Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton as your WWE Tag Team Champions, and Tiffany still have the briefcase and maybe wanted to cash in on Nia?
I mean, I feel like that's something that they could relatively easy have done.
Yeah.
Again, we're on the topic of these belts, and it feels like moving them would have been the right choice simply because they don't really do much outside of that with them.
Well, they have a match coming up on Monday Night Raw where they're going to face Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Do they drop them to them? I doubt they're going to drop them to them. I feel like we are stuck with Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair being your tag team champions until like the Royal Rumble. Like I said last week on the show, where I feel like at the Rumble, maybe we see the split start and we head down the road to the WrestleMania match where it's Jade Cargill versus Bianca Belair.
Yeah, they need to get that going because, like we said last week, the entrances alone for this are going to be insane. And that could be a big seller for the pay-per-view.
Well, maybe it's just me and the fact that they decided to let Tiffany Stratton take the pin on Friday Night SmackDown. Can we not just let Nia take one pin? Why are we trying to pin the future of the company
Fair
here?
enough.
Okay, that's the end of my TED Talk for this question. On to my next stunning question for you. Okay, so we were talking about Friday Spirit on Friday night for New Japan Strong Wrestling, and it was in Lowell, Massachusetts. It was an excellent pay-per-view, but the one thing you would notice is this crowd was not full, and it was easy to see, like when they were cutting promos and stuff, they're shooting at it, and I could count the seats where the people were not sitting in seats. Should New Japan Pro Wrestling found a smaller building in Lowell, Massachusetts, or is it something they worry about because they're still making inroads into North America, and maybe they just decided to do the show to have this near where AEW was so they could easily have some talent cross over, and that made sense. So they would eat the cost. But how do you feel about this, Ashlee?
I don't know. I feel like New Japan sometimes struggles, even on the best, to sell out in Japan. So coming here where they're not as well known, maybe like you said, a smaller venue would have been a better choice for them. Especially because outside of the occasional promotion from AEW, there's not much promotion for New Japan here.
Very true. I feel like their next show, which will be in Long Beach on December the 15th, if I remember right, will be a better attended show because it's on the West Coast and they have a history of New Japan Pro Wrestling coming to Long Beach and Southern California.
Yeah, exactly, because they rarely come to this side.
An East Coast event that is mostly New Japan Pro Wrestling is a very rare thing that we get to see here. And I feel like maybe they're just willing to eat these, hoping they can build on the East Coast like they did over in Southern California.
Yeah, and I hope they continue to do it. I'd love to see them keep coming back to this coast.
Me too. You know what? I love to see them come to the South. Like maybe, Nashville is like 3 hours away from me. It's a hotbed of professional wrestling. What can we have New Japan Pro Wrestling in Nashville?
Right. They gotta do it. Come on.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that has been Radio Free Professional Wrestling for this week. Ashlee, where can we find you on the Super Information Superhighway?
Kind of made a switch here, mostly to Blue Sky, and it's at groovyash.bsky.social.
Well, you can always follow this show on Twitter at Radio Free PW. You can visit our website at www.radiofreeprofessionalwrestling.com, where you can check the previous episodes of the show. And if you have liked this YouTube podcast, why don't you hit the like button, subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode of Radio Free Professional Wrestling, because we will be discussing the state of Ring of Honor with Kenny freaking Soko. And apparently, Ashlee, she's besties with Paul Heyman now, so we might have to acknowledge her.
We'll see about that.
Hey, if she comes with the wise man, I'm going to have to start thinking about it, because
Sure.
she has stroke that I don't even have. So, ladies and gentlemen, until we see you next time, have a stunning start to your week. Remember, this is our groovy and stunning editor. Thumbs up.